Hello, it's Mrs. Jacobson here for part 2 of Sylvester and the Magic Pebble. We're just going to recap of what happened in part 1. Sylvester ended up turning himself into a stone. He accidentally got scared when he saw a lion and wished to be a stone. But he never returned home because he was no longer a donkey. So his mom and dad are very sad that he hasn't returned to home. So we're going to read on to see what happens in the rest of the book. Night followed day, and day followed night, over and over again. Sylvester on the hill woke up less and less often. When he was awake, he was only hopeless and unhappy. Poor Sylvester, he's depressed. He felt he would be a rock forever, and he tried to get used to it. He went into an endless sleep. The days grew colder. Fall came with the leaves changing color. Then the leaves fell and the grass bent to the ground. Then it was winter. The winds blew this way and that. It snowed. Mostly the animals stayed indoors, living on the food they had stored up. One day a wolf sat on the rock that was Sylvester and howled because he was hungry. I wonder if Sylvester was hungry too. Then the snows melted, the earth warmed up in the spring sun, and things budded. The leaves were on the trees again, flowers showed their young faces. Boys and girls, you can see that budding means that the flowers are blooming. And what does it mean to show their young faces? Do they really have actual faces on their flowers? No, that means that they're new and they've bloomed. One day in May, Mr. Duncan insisted that his wife go with him on a picnic. "Let's cheer up," he said. "Let us try to live again and be happy, even though Sylvester, our angel, is no longer with us." They went to Strawberry Hill. Mrs. Duncan sat down on the rock. The warmth of his own mother sitting on him woke Sylvester up from his deep winter sleep. How he wanted to shout, "Mother! Father! It's me, Sylvester! I'm right here!" But he couldn't talk. He had no voice. He was stone dumb. Stone dumb here means that he can't speak. Mr. Duncan walked aimlessly, meaning all over the place, about while Mrs. Duncan set out the picnic food on the rock. Alfalfa sandwiches, pickled oats, sassafras salad, Timothy compote. Suddenly, Mr. Duncan saw the red pebble. "What a fantastic pebble!" he exclaimed. Sylvester would have loved it for his collection. He put the pebble on the rock. So you can see he sees the pebble there. Here's the pebble, now on the rock. They sat down to eat. Sylvester was now as wide awake as a donkey that was a rock could possibly be. Mrs. Duncan felt some mysterious excitement. "You know, Father," she said suddenly, "I have the strangest feeling that our dear Sylvester is still alive and not far away." I am, Sylvester wanted to shout, but he couldn't. If only he had realized that the pebble resting on his back was the magic pebble. "Oh, how I wish he were here with us on this lovely May day," said Mrs. Duncan. Mr. Duncan looked sadly at the ground. "Don't you wish it too, Father?" she said. He looked at her as if to say, "How can you ask such a question?" Mr. and Mrs. Duncan looked at each other with great sorrow. I wish I were myself again. I wish I were my real self again, thought Sylvester. And in less than an instant, he was. There he is, standing on all fours, no longer a rock. You can imagine the scene that followed. The embraces, the kisses, the questions, the answers, the loving looks, and the fond exclamations. Boys and girls, they're just so excited. And he no longer has to sit out there as a rock. When they had eventually calmed down a bit and had gotten home, Mr. Duncan put the magic pebble in an iron safe. Someday they might want to use it, but really, for now, what more could they wish for? They all had all that they wanted. Just themselves, right here as a family, on the couch, in their home. The end. Boys and girls, I hope you enjoyed the book Sylvester and the Magic Pebble by William Steig. Thank you for listening.